By now, we all know that Scream 5 is a continuation of the previous films, and whether or not it's a direct or indirect sequel is yet to be seen. We'll find out when the time comes. But now that we have the official title card, which I also did an entire video on, that if you haven't seen, I'll link it down in the description so you can check it out after this one, I wanted to discuss the title of Scream 5 overall, because from the beginning, it's been very mixed as far as why call it Scream and not Scream 5. I mean, most fans and even content creators like myself, we all reference it as Scream 5 or Scream 2022. But as always, this is a discussion and I want to hear from you in the end. I want to know what your opinion is on the title and what you would have named it had you had the chance. Before we get started, be sure to like the video. It helps me out a lot, lets me know that you enjoy these types of videos, and I really appreciate it. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to the channel, followed by the bell notifications, so you always stay up to date to all your favorite Scream content. So, let's get into it. So, why call this upcoming Scream film Scream and not Scream 5? I mean, we know that this isn't a remake or a reboot, that it is a continuation of the previous 4 films. So right off the bat, you have a lot of continuity issues, and you have the potential to cause a lot of confusion later on in the franchise. Because you have the original Scream called Scream, and now you'll have Scream 5 called Scream. So right off the bat, you have some issues that hopefully will be addressed at some point, but right off the bat, it can cause a lot of confusion amongst newer generations, etc. But we know why they called it Scream and not Scream 5 based on the producers from what they said. It's clearly a sort of homage to Wes Craven, being that it's called Scream. But the main reason was they wanted this to be the beginning, the start of their own sort of Scream franchise in their own direction. That they didn't want it to be called Scream 5 because they didn't want it to be a 5th installment of the film. They wanted it to be sort of a new beginning. But again, it's not a remake and it's not a reboot. So you're taking a story and characters that have already been built, and now you're trying to implement them into this new direction and this new beginning, which is fine. But why not call it, a Scream Returns, or, Scream Return to Woodsboro or something, or, Scream the Death of Sydney, or, something that separates the title from the previous films, because with this, you have no real separation. The question then becomes also, are they naming it Scream and not Scream 5 because of a sort of full circle? The original franchise started with Scream, and you had the OG characters that were built and developed in the original Scream. Is this sort of the end of that development? Those OG characters, the Sidney, Gale, and Dewey. Is this a sort of full circle, here's Scream beginning, here's Scream end? I mean, it's just food for thought. It's just an idea that is kind of flowing in my head as I'm mentioning these points, because there is a lot of talk and speculation about them moving away from the OG3. So naming it Scream as sort of the end to that franchise, to that series of films, and starting the new beginning. Maybe Scream 6 and 7 are a sort of reboot with new characters, with not real mention outside of the end of Scream 5, or maybe Scream 5 just ends and there is no real connection. It's just sort of like the beginning of a new story with the remaining survivors from 5, and now you're moving in this new direction. So it is in a lot of ways a sort of reboot, just very soft, I guess you could say. So that's just an idea that I kind of had pop in my head, like I said, of what if this is the end to that story, and hence why they called this Scream and not Scream 5. Because when you really think about it and you really boil it down, I mean, the announcement of Scream 5 was the Scream with the S as a 5. What was wrong with that? That was great marketing. They already did that with Scream 4, replacing the A with the 4. Why not just have that be the design? And it could still be the same film. I mean, you could still do the same direction, the same change, the same everything. There has to be a real reason, and hopefully we'll find out in the film as to why it's called Scream. I mean, I know Courtney Cox, she chimed in on that interview with Drew Barrymore, which I also covered, so check out that interview if you haven't. But she covered and discussed how, this is its own thing, like this is its own Scream in its own direction, which is fine. But again, you're not rebooting it, you're not remaking it. So what's wrong with calling it Scream 5, the end of Woodsboro or something, or whatever you want to title it, or just leaving it Scream 5 and allowing it to develop into the film that you want it to be? Because there was no real reason for it calling Scream. And again, you have a lot of continuity issues, and it's not very fluid as far as the other previous 4 films, because now you have the original trilogy, you have Scream 4, and now you have Scream again. And yes, this new Scream is going to be the beginning to a new trilogy, so you'll have some separation. You'll have the original Scream trilogy, and then you'll have this new Scream trilogy, which Scream 4, as I've mentioned in previous videos, will sort of be its own standalone. I might even do a video on what the direction for Scream 4's continuation was supposed to be, because Scream 4 was supposed to start a trilogy of 5 and 6, and there actually was development for that film. Even Kevin Williamson originally wrote Scream 4 with 2 other films. So if you guys want to see a video on that, drop a like and let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to do a full video dedicating to that. But back on topic, I feel like they should have had more separation. Of course, it has no real effect or impact on the film. If the film is a great film, who cares what it's called? As long as Ghostface is the usual Ghostface that we're accustomed to, and the character development is great, and the story is great, and it's a great film, then who cares? Call it S for all it matters. Whatever. But I'm saying, just for a continuity standpoint, just to not cause confusion for newer generations, because eventually, even myself, I'm going to grow old and newer generations come in and people pick up the films and they get reintroduced to this wonderful franchise. And you have the potential to cause some confusion of, oh, they remade this. No, it's not a remake. It's a continuation. They just named it Scream for whatever reason. It's just something that I felt earned a video of discussion, because I'd love to hear from you. As always, this is a discussion. And I just think, and maybe they will with 6 and 7, I just think you should have named it Scream. Like, if you wanted to call it Scream Returns, or Scream Returns to Woodsboro. And now you have Scream 6, and Scream 6 is like kind of what they did with this new Halloween. They had Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, but you could have done, Scream, and then, Scream Return to Woodsboro, Scream Louder or whatever, and then you had Scream Ends or something, kind of like what it appears in a lot of ways. It's they're trying to do what Halloween did with success. You had the returning character that is iconic, and you build the Halloween, and then it's a direct sequel, but it's become sort of its own thing, and then you have part 2 and part 3, and now you have this new trilogy. That kind of seems what the direction with this Scream is. They want to name it Scream, and then Scream 6 and 7 most likely will have a title behind it. It'll be Scream whatever, and then Scream 6 is Scream whatever, and Scream 7 is Scream whatever, and it'll sort of tell the story. But it'll be really interesting to see how this new trilogy develops overall. And I really want to know what your opinion is. Do you feel that a little weird about it being called Scream, or do you not care at all? Do you, what would you have titled it? That's what I would love. Why don't we do a comment section? Why don't you, in the comments, let me know if you had the chance, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you had a chance, what would you title Scream 5, 6, and 7? Outside of just Scream. Like, would you call it Scream, like I said, Returns to Woodsboro, and Scream Woodsboro Massacre for 6, and then Scream 7 would be, Scream Till You Die, or whatever. I don't know. I'd really have to think about it. But you are all creative, and I'd love to hear from you and what kind of creative titles you would call this Scream trilogy. But anyway, that'll be the end. I'll wrap this up here. As always, like the video. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. It lets me know that you enjoy these types of just sort of random discussions, because that's really what this video was. It was just something that I thought about and wanted to talk to you all about. So like the video, because it helps me know that to do more of these, and subscribe to the channel, followed by the bell notification so you never miss an upload, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you.